everyone, and welcome to another edition of First Impression Sports Talk. This show is going to be very special. We're going to have a very special guest, and we're going to have a great conversation. So when we get back, I'll introduce our guest.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to First Impression Sports Talk. I'm Jasmine Pollock, and tonight we have a very special guest. I'm going to interview this person. We've had this person on before many episodes ago. So let's introduce our guest. It's going to be Coach Pete Wehry. I am so excited that he's here. It's been a while, Coach, so how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was trying to think. I know when we did our first episode, I was in Tuscaloosa, and that was probably close to 18 months ago. It had to be
18 months.
Yeah, you've been killing it. You must be killing these episodes out. So I'm grateful to be back and honored. Thank you.
Of course. So I'm happy to have you back. The last time we had a great conversation, so I'm sure we're going to have another great conversation. So let's start out. So what's going on? 2023, the new year, we're in the third month. How's everything been going for you? And, what has been happening? What's been going on?
So as some of our listeners might remember, who knows, we might have a bunch of new ones. I hope we do. But I work with college basketball. We serve them professionally and familial, and then spiritually if they want it. And I work with a ministry called Nation of Coaches. So the truth is, in the last probably year and a half since we last talked, we continue to grow. We continue to see opportunities to invest in coaches, the teams, the athletes, and it's been outstanding. We've added staff. I'll say it this way, Jasmine. So I joined the ministry in 2013. We had a staff of 4 people. And we had my boss, who's the CEO. We had our COO. And then we had, and I really hope our listeners catch this, then we had a gentleman that had coached at Carson Newman for 9 years. He was the AD and head basketball coach. He also helped start the Black Coaches Association with John Thompson, named Dale Clayton. And then I was the next guy in line. And so we would have a staff call, a Zoom call, and just be the 4 of us and 3 or 4 assistants, financial people, so forth. Now we get on a Zoom call, we're on 2 pages. So, in 10 years, we're now up to a staff of about 30 people. It's overwhelming. Yeah, it's overwhelming. When I first joined, we had what we call character coaches. And the best way I describe that, it's almost like a chaplain in football. Basketball doesn't happen. The reason is because football makes so much money, you can do whatever you want, right?
Right.
And so when I joined, we had 50. We've now trained close to 300. Right now, we probably have about 100, 190 placed. And I'll jump here, Jasmine. And the reason that somebody will say, what happened to the other 110 is, well, when coaches get let go, then we start all over again. And speaking of that, that day is coming right now. There's 2 websites, Hoop Dirt and Whoop Dirt, WHOOP, which is women's hoop. Both of those, if you're on those, you're going to see coaches getting let go. And what people don't realize, when coaches get let go, it's not one guy.
Right.
It's 5 other staff members, and then it's often GAs, so forth. It'll be a change of 15 to 20 people's lives out of work and so forth. So we help them when they try to navigate that. And this year they're predicting 60 to 65 Division I head coaches getting fired. That's just Division I. And we deal with 2, 3, NAIA, JUCO. We help whoever we can. So that's how we serve and minister.
That's amazing.
For us, that's March Madness. Not that.
Right.
Well, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said that a lot of these coaches are getting, let go and different things like that. It just shows how things are changing and how guys are like, okay, now they're leaving and guys are going to different places, new journeys, just not fitting right with the certain organizations. But how is that process like getting, these coaches fired? How have you guys dealt with that? How has that been? How big of a challenge has that been?
Well, everyone is obviously intricate in itself. But the first thing is, what you'll have a breakdown of family. Like the wife's like, okay, now we got to move, we got to pack. He's going, where am I going to work? What am I going to do for a living? So you're helping them at first to establish the fact that, they're not the only one that's ever gone through this. In my opinion, God's got them. They'll figure it out. But there's going to need to be adjustments and so forth. And, since the last time we talked, Jasmine, this is really funny because you broached it in a way. Coaches get hired and they get fired. I have a friend who is an interim coach, and I told him to tell the media every coach is an interim coach. Every coach is on the hot seat. And then the other thing is coaches don't just leave because they get fired. And I'm going to go here a little bit. Everybody gets up in arms, especially guys my age. Oh, basketball's changed, NIL, portal. Well, careful how I say this. Coaches have been in the portal their whole life.
Yeah.
Man, if I can get a better job, and very frankly, the truth is, if I was doing the same thing I'm doing and somebody offered me $100,000 more, right. I might go, I'm gone.
Right.
Let's be honest. And so I don't get frustrated with all this. And I think we all know this. There's always been finances involved.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I just saw a special the other day, and they were talking about the SEC, and there was a school, and I won't say what it is, but I don't think it matters because they're all right. And this guy said, "Man, I built this whole workout system, for the players. It's named in our family name." And some guy they got on that witness protection plan, blacked out. He goes, "That's all right. I bought the 3 linebackers." That was 5-7 years ago, right?
Right.
So now it's and honestly, when you're a college basketball player, and I'm really careful how I say this, you are working. You're owned. You are an employer, man. You're getting up at 6 and you're getting done at 9 at night if you're lucky.
That's
so
true.
Very, very, and by the way, coaches live crazy lives. Gone 180 days. We do a lot of work with marriages. And I mean, we support them, marriage retreats and so forth. And that's been really important.
I agree. And I like that, just that answer you gave us and, being, transparent about that, that I like that analogy you use, like coaches are interns. This is not a permanent thing for you. They're going in and out. It's interchangeable. So that's very interesting. I never thought about it that way. So now I'm like, let me do a deep dive in that. But you mentioned something that has the whole college sports world, up in arms about, the NILs, name, image, and likeness. So from your perspective, I know it, when we last talked, we didn't really get in depth about that because I don't think we were like, that was the main focus. But what is your take on NILs? Are they good for college sports? Are they going to expand college sports? Is this going to be helpful or is it going to be a problem?
I think there's a couple of answers there. First of all, I think I broached it already that it was kind of, there's always been a way it's kind of gone on. They found ways to help kids financially when they can. Second of all, I'm not sure how it's all going to play out. I think for me to make that judgment would be arrogant because there's so many dynamics involved. But I will tell you this. In 2020, when COVID came out, I was skeptical. I'm just being upfront with you. I realize now that I had COVID before it was cool. All right. I had it in December of 2019. I was sick. I didn't know what was wrong with me, heart pounding. I was exhausted. And I was coming back from a trip, and that's when this all started to break. Right. And as I say that to you, when the NCAA said we're not having a tournament, that's when I knew, this is a big deal. Because the NCAA, I'd love for Jasmine, don't want to put you on the spot and embarrass you, but how much do you think they make in the NCAA tournament?
Honestly, I have no idea.
$1 billion. So when they said COVID's real, I went, well, that must be real because they're $1 billion, right? But when I say that, that's why I go, okay. Because there's always this argument. I'm trying to be generous and kind, but the NCAA is all about the athletes, but they're making $1 billion. Now, I know for other tournaments, they're not. When they do some type of field hockey or lacrosse, cross country, I'm not sure if they're making money, breaking even, whatever they're doing. But when you're making $1 billion, I'm just asking you, If somebody gave you 10 million and you put it away, you'd be okay with that? I think I'd be okay. So money's always being made, and I'm careful, on the backs of coaches and players.
Yes.
So I know numerous guys, and I'm going to put it this way, guys that are now in athletic administration, guys that were players, guys that have a heart for God, that have looked at me and said, man, I walk into it's a Power 5 school, in the bookstore is my jersey, and they're making $75 on that jersey, and I'm getting nothing.
Yeah.
And someone will say on this call, yeah, but you got your education. That is true. But if you look at the hours of work for the amount of money for that education, right, I think you're going to look at some really, really weak wages. I know athletes have been blessed, but I also think and by the way, another one is, I had a friend say this to me. This was not caused by ADs and athletes. This was caused by presidents of colleges. You know how? Because when the president of college heard, man, Under Armour will give us $100 million if we wear their stuff, give it.
Yeah.
So, the money's always been involved. So I will go here too. I sometimes wonder if the NCAA is going to make it. I'm wondering if in 10 years we're going to have club sports like they do in Europe.
Yeah.
I could see that happening, which will change the whole landscape of coaching. I mean, that's already happened. It's hard for some coaches, maybe not just because they're old guys like me, but when I didn't get into coaching to make money. In fact, I didn't make money. All right. That's okay. And I didn't get into coaching. I did probably want to win probably more than I should have. I mean, I was so driven, but I did love people, and I wanted to invest in them. And that can kind of get tossed out when there's so much money involved. But you know what? Kids are still attracted to that. Really good kids, they want the NIL, but they also want someone to take care of them.
Right.
As a human. So that's my take on it. I don't know if that's a good take or what.
That's a good take, though, because even for me, like I look at it, of course, you have a lot of these players, these schools are making a boatload of money off these athletes and coaches, like you said. I'm still like, I don't even know what's going to happen with it, because I remember I went to a summit back in Pittsburgh back in October of last year, and I was talking to an NCAA official, and I asked her that same question. She was like, honestly, I don't even know. She's like, I don't know what we're going to do, what's going to happen, how's it going to look 5-10 years from now, because she said we still don't even have the abilities to like dive into it now. So it's like still very new to them, and they're still trying to navigate what goes on. And you mentioned, there's a lot of students who still care, a lot of athletes who still care about that, people, coaches and coaching staff taking care of them. We see what's happening with Jackson State and Dion going over to Colorado, and you have a lot of guys transferring over because of who he is and what he, the culture he's brought. So there's a lot of things going on with that. So I want to see what's going to happen with it. I think it's going to be very, very interesting in the coming future, but there's a lot of question marks regarding it. But on to the next question. What are some goals that the nation of coaches has right now? What are you guys looking for? Like, being that we're in the new year, what are you guys looking forward to the most to expand, like you said before? And what are you guys looking forward to continue the process of building?
Okay, so folks, you all don't really know this. We talked a little bit about what we talk about, but I did not know she was going to ask me this. And as Jasmine has asked me this is one of the best questions I could have been asked, because I believe it's going to give hope to people out there, especially for the athlete. As I mentioned, one of the best things we have done is to support coaches in their marriages. For some of these athletes, it may be the only marriage they see, which is, I'll be very frank with you, a very big deal. It impacts them. But the next area that we have really begin to address, and I know Jasmine's going to be ecstatic about this, I mean it, is we are working on ways to help athletes with their mental health and the challenges that they face.
Yes.
So we have already done this. We have partnered with WinShape Ministries, which is with Chick-fil-A. We have counselors. We've done that for marriages. Now we're getting them for young people who are not in a good emotional headspace. I will share one story for a coach. We had a coach who had been in the Army, and he had had a very, very traumatic experience. And during the year, he had a real emotional breakdown and considered suicide. We right away got him to some help. Our ministry helped raise money. We raised for him to go away for a month, $30,000 program.
Mm-hmm.
And he is now almost ridiculously, I could say it like this, the poster child, the spokesman for that group, because he's had such change. And it's been such a testimony to his players, because all of the players have something emotional going on, because we know there's this fictitious world. There's this world where you look on the internet and you go, man, like even now, as I look at this, I'm going to say it, Jasmine, don't reach over here and slap me on the TV now. Okay. Jasmine, you're looking good, but I'm looking old, Jasmine. Okay. And so what I need to do is probably go and make a picture of this. You change the color of my face.
Oh, yeah.
Can you make me about 40 pounds thinner? Everybody watching be happier. I'd be happier. It's not a real world we're living in. We only see people at their best. We don't see them. And so then a person looks at that and goes, I must not be getting it done. And that's not the truth. It's not the truth. And, just last night, and I'll give you a couple illustrations. I can't go deep diving here because I don't want to lose any credibility of privacy with people. But
of course,
I know a young man that chose. I wish I could say it, because he chose a college. He could have gone anywhere. If he is now in the pros. If he was now playing in high school, he would be getting at least $1 million. All right, in NIL money. He chose the college. He called them the college he went to because of their high academics.
Mm-hmm.
People just didn't know it because he's such a freak athlete and a good player. But he's really, really smart. And he really wants to educate people with the African-American movement. He's a phenomenal young man. All right. So there's one of, like, people just don't know. They make judgments in this mental health stuff. And then they look at another person who I know right now, all they do is they put up this front. They're majorly insecure, an athlete, and they're on the edge all the time. And then I just happen to be around an organization during trade deadline. You would not believe the mental stress on that in the NBA. Because just imagine talking to your producer, talking to you. All right, you guys got to move it, and you got 12 hours.
Right.
Like, and what if you move from a good team to a bad team? What if you move from a bad team to a good team, but you can't bring your family? All of these, and that's that area. But in college, it's even higher because kids don't usually have a northern compass yet. They're trying to discover who they are. So our new focus is we are developing a whole mental health staff and team. That's crazy. It's great. It'll help coaches and athletes.
Right. And I think we touched down on that the last time we talked. I'm really big on mental health and making sure, it's not, we tend to look at just the athlete. Oh, he does phenomenal. She does phenomenal. We look at the coaches. They have a great record. They're doing well, or they're not doing so well. This player is not as good, but behind the scenes, when there's no lights, there's no cameras, there's nothing. It's just them. How is their mental state? How is their spiritual state? And it's important that we have conversations like that to make sure people are at their best inside and out. So that way they can perform at their best. They can do their best and strive to be better and different things like that. So that's a very powerful thing you said, and that you guys are moving into that chapter now within the organization, which is amazing. And I think people should really take into account mental health. It's not just in sports, but any umbrella in business and so many different things in the world. Life. I mean, your mental health is probably, to me, the most important, and spiritual. It all aligns with each other. So if you're not right within, it's going to start protruding out. And that's why it's so important to have conversations like this. But you mentioned something very interesting, and I've been having this conversation for the past 2 weeks, is the state of the NBA right now. Where do you think the state of NBA is going? What does the future of the NBA look like as constructed right now? Is what we see, trades and different players going different places, all these different things. What is your take on the NBA and its future?
Well, it's really interesting. I'm not as probably attuned to that, but I've been around enough now and been around a couple of scenarios to get a feel for this. It's no different, in my opinion, than business. It really starts at the top of the business It really comes down to what are your core values?
Mm-hmm.
Who are your leaders? How do they function as an organization? It trickles down, and you'll see, and people don't like this, but bad management leads to bad scenarios.
Yes.
Okay.
True.
And so people are attracted to go to places with strong leaders, and not strong in that they're arrogant. It's probably just the opposite. They're humble and they serve their people and they give them an opportunity to grow. Mm-hmm. And so that is one. I think this whole thing, and we're back to mental health.
Yeah.
When this whole thing with, I don't know it all. I do know somebody that coached John Morant and said he's a great kid. That's all he said to me, and I have very good confidence in that. But I'm not in his John Morant's shoes. I am not, and I think that's a whole nother thing about mental health and so forth. You know, I'm not advocating either way. I don't know all that happened. That's the first thing. And in media, here we are, media. We have to be very careful not to be clickbait, not to jump to the conclusion. I'm telling you, I know situations going on that are hyper media, and I know some of the coaches involved, and they're not speaking the truth.
Mm.
And I would say this, man. I know it's a sports radio show. I am so frustrated in our country that we have. If you watch one side and watch the other, you think we live in two different countries. When the fact is, the truth is, Jasmine, and you're in my boat. If we sat here talk long enough, we might disagree something, but that doesn't mean I hate you.
Exactly.
In fact, we probably have way more in common, which we've already seen in our conversation here, than we have in our diversity.
Exactly.
And so we spend so much time. Well, Jasmine said it this way. This is what she meant. I don't know what you always meant. Man, I think, and that's why asking questions is way more important than telling people what to do. So the state of the NBA, it's the organizations, I think, that ask questions, that listen, that lead with integrity, strong core values. I think other organizations, it's a challenge, and you see it play out. You see players say, "I'm out. I'm out." They'll bolt if they'll find a way. So
and I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. You know, and you can even look at the standings alone. Like there's only a few teams, you know, like up here, and then everybody else is like falling behind, and you can clearly see it what's going on in the NBA. But you mentioned something that was so powerful about media. And even though I'm going into that field, I have worked very hard, you know, doing my show to ask questions and have open dialogue and not be biased and just have open conversation like this and getting other people's perspective, because I'm big on that, and hearing other people's sides of things and their stories. So I find that very important. But one last question before we get out of here. And this one, you know, this one just came in the head. Like I didn't even have it written down.
I'm good with this. Woo, let's go.
So, what advice do you give an athlete or a coach, you know, in the world that we live in today? How do you keep your spirituality intact? How do you keep your moral compass intact? How do you continue to be a Christian, a true Christian within the sports world, within the world in life, period, going out working for different organizations that may have different views on particular things?
There's a great book that I just got by Lou Giglio, and it's called "Don't Let the Enemy Sit at Your Table." And I'm actually reading that one, and another one on mental health, which is called Mindset by Michael Hyatt and his daughter. All of this deals with this. You have to feed your mind with truth, and you have to call out liars, at least in your mind, like that's not true, and then you don't give them a seat at your table. I think it's imperative that we feed ourselves with truth, and we feed ourselves with that which will encourage and exhort us and make us think true north. With that said, I think you then must be very guarded about social media. And I think everybody would go, duh. That's a duh statement. But there are still so many people that struggle with this. I have a friend that's a coach at a very high level. I wish I could dig deeper. He's unbelievable. He's unbelievable because he doesn't have any of that. And he knows who he is. He knows what he believes, and he's not going to budge. And it's not arrogant. It's actually the exact opposite. Whenever the team struggles, he takes the blame. He is a phenomenal, strong leader. With that said, I sometimes have to tell him, hey, this is what the media said. You're okay. And he's got to deal with the media, right? And I really am careful because you said it, Jasmine. When you're asking questions for a coach, you really want to know what's going on, or do you want to catch them in a statement that you can make a story out of?
Yes.
And there is a major difference. And I've seen them do this. I know the guy. I know what he said. And I've seen the diversion. Oh, this is what he meant.
Exactly.
Okay. And I will tell you this, from my impression, the players love him because he tells them he cares. He tells them he loves them. And it's not rhetoric, but he also tells them the truth. And I mean, sometimes that's not fun. Like my stepfather was probably the most influential man in my life. And he would look at me and go, hey, basically suck it up, Buttercup. You're being a baby.
Right.
And I didn't like hearing that. Meanwhile, my mom's going, he's fine. He's fine. That was the liar, right? She'd be upset right now. She knew I was saying this because no, you were. No, I knew I had issues. I knew I was arrogant. I knew I was proud. I didn't yield to humility. I dug in, and so I think that's really important that we help kids and adults feed your mind with truth and put up barriers to non-truths. Negative talk. It's so unbelievable to me. Even that you and I can have this. I'm gonna be real honest, folks out there listening. Jasmine and I are having a conversation. I'm gonna walk away encouraged. That's what I should walk away.
Right.
I shouldn't be Debbie Downer all day long, and we have way too much of that.
I agree with that. And that was well said. We
appreciate it.
As a people, especially, me being like, and that was advice was for me too, because I asked that for myself as well. But just we see that right now in the social climate, because I'm on social media. I see what's going on. I keep up with obviously a lot of things, and I see people twist words all the time. And then when someone comes out and says, hey, that's not what I said, this is what I said, here's another story. Oh, well, he's doubling back or
right.
She's doubling back on her statements when that's not what I said in the first place. It was completely misconstrued. So we live in a society like that, and I feel it's important that people do their research. You have to do your research. I mean, you can't, it's our responsibility as media people to do our research and make sure we get it right. Make sure that, okay, let me think before I ask this question. How would this question sound? And would it be comfortable to ask this question in this moment in time? That's the type of person I want to be in this field, is to ask the real questions that give influential and impactful answers.
That's love
what
that.
I want to do.
And you're headed that direction. The last advice, if you said for you that maybe I give you this advice, I give it to any young coach, young athlete. There's a process in all this. With what I'm doing, I am sometimes humbly shocked. I walk into certain places and get to serve different people, coaches, so forth.
Right.
And I go, man, I wish I'd known that. No, I wouldn't have been ready 40 years ago. I wouldn't have been ready 30 years ago. I am. Here's the cool thing. I've learned so much, but here's the even cooler thing. I'm still learning so much. And I hope that, I used to tell you this to my son, and he quoted me one time when he was talking to a group of youth, and I was like, oh, he did listen. First of all, the grass is always greenest where you water it. And if you're not growing, you're dying. If you look at a tree and there's no green on it, you're toast. You're always got to be growing. That's why I love that you're doing this, because you're growing yourself in this profession. Actually, you've learned beyond this profession. You're learning about social and life adjustments, skills, and things that are making an impact on who you're becoming as a human being, as a person.
Right.
Appreciate it, man. I really do.
Of course. And that wraps up our conversation. It's always a good conversation, Coach Pete. We're back and talking. It's been 18 months, like he said.
Call me again.
Since we talked, guys. So it's been a long time. I mean, maybe like my second or third episode. I'm like over 100 episodes in.
There you go.
Thank you again, Coach Pete, for being on here and giving your expertise and giving your testimony and just talking to us and giving us advice, giving the audience advice. I'm very thankful for that. Thank you.
Honestly, it's my honor, and I'm praying that God continues to guide you, give you success, and that you can glorify him. Have a good one.
Amen. And that wraps up this interview. We'll see you guys next time for more on First Impression Sports Talk.